Hi, and welcome to an episode of Anything But Authentic, where I make interesting fusion food that is anything but authentic. Today, I'm putting a boba twist on the traditional cinnamon rolls to make a very delicious dessert called boba milk tea roll. If you're not familiar with boba, I've covered its background in my boba with fish sauce video. Feel free to check out that video in the description below. For the few who've never heard of cinnamon rolls, it's a very popular sweet roll in Northern Europe and the United States. It consists of a rolled sheet of yeast leavened dough, onto which a cinnamon sugar mixture is sprinkled over a thin layer of butter, which is then rolled, cut into individual portions, baked, and topped with a layer of glaze. There are many variations of cinnamon rolls you can find around the world. Some include raisins, Nutella, peanut butter, and many more. Since it's also a very popular roll to have in the fall, it's fitting that I make an anything but authentic version, but with boba milk tea instead. And with that, let's get started. For this recipe, you'll need 1 1/4 cups of whole milk, 1 tablespoon of black tea of your preference, 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar, 1 package of dry yeast, 1/4 cup of water, warmed up to 115 degrees Fahrenheit, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/4 cup of melted unsalted butter, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1 egg, 4 cups of all-purpose flour, another 1/4 cup of melted unsalted butter to brush on top before baking, 1/3 cup of room temperature unsalted butter, 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of milk tea powder, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, half a teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of room temperature cream cheese, 1 tablespoon of room temperature butter, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of salt, 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar, and 1 cup of dry boba. Let's start with infusing the tea into the milk. Heat 1 1/4 cups of whole milk in a small pot on low. Place 1 tablespoon of tea into a tea ball strainer, then add it into the pot of milk. Let it simmer for around 10 minutes, stirring constantly to prevent the skin from forming on top. After 10 minutes, strain the milk tea mixture and cool it down before moving to the next step. Then we move on to making the dough. In a small bowl, combine the warm water and 1 teaspoon of granulated sugar, sprinkle the yeast over the top, and let it sit for about 5 minutes. It's important that you warm the water to the right temperature, which is around 115 degrees Fahrenheit. If it's too hot, it'll kill the yeast. Otherwise, it won't activate the yeast to make a fluffy dough. After 5 minutes, in the bowl of a standing mixture fitted with a dough hook, add 1 egg, 3/4 of a cup of tea infused milk, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/4 cup of melted butter, 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract, yeast mixture, and a couple tablespoons of the flour. Mix until it's all incorporated and slowly add the rest of the flour, 1 tablespoon at a time. Turn the speed up to medium and let it knead for about 5 to 7 minutes, or until you have a smooth dough. As someone who messed the dough up quite a few times while testing this recipe, I recommend you to give the dough enough time to knead. Otherwise, you get hard and crunchy rolls, which is not ideal. Take the dough out of the mixer and pull it together with your hands to form a ball. Place it in a large bowl that's oiled with a good amount of vegetable oil, then roll it around to get the dough completely oiled. Cover the bowl with plastic wrap and place it in a warm spot to rise for about 2 hours. In a small bowl, mix together 1/4 cup of brown sugar, 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, 1/4 cup of milk tea powder, and half a teaspoon of salt for the filling and set it aside. After around 2 hours, your dough should have doubled in size. Punch the dough down and roll it onto a floured surface and form it into a rectangle. Spread the soft butter over the top and evenly sprinkle the milk tea sugar mixture over it. Starting from one of the long ends, tightly roll the dough into a jelly roll form. Cut it into 6-inch slices and place them into a well-buttered baking pan. Cover with plastic wrap and put them back into a warm spot to rise for another hour and a half. Once the rolls have risen, brush them with some melted butter and bake them in an oven preheated at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for about 30 minutes or until golden brown. While we wait for the rolls to bake, let's make the glaze. Mix together a 1/4 cup of room temperature cream cheese, 1 tablespoon of room temperature butter, half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and 1 1/4 cups of powdered sugar until everything is well combined. Slowly add 4 tablespoons of tea infused milk, 1 tablespoon at a time, until you get a runny glaze consistency. When finished, set it aside. Then we move on to making the boba. It's best to follow the instructions attached to the packet of your dry boba. Heat up a full pot of water on high. When the water starts boiling, add 1 cup of boba and give it a little stir. Once all the boba floats to the surface, cover the pot and cook on medium heat for 5 to 8 minutes. Afterwards, turn off the heat and let it simmer for another 5 to 8 minutes. Once it's done, drain it and place into the bowl with the glaze. Give it a little mix and set it aside. Once the rolls are baked, take it out and cool it down for a couple of minutes. Then pour the delicious milk tea boba glaze mixture on top. And there you have it! A delicious, fluffy, buttery roll with the flavor of milk tea combined with some chewy boba goodness. Delicious! I hope you enjoyed this fun creation. If you did, feel free to give this video a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button, and follow me on my social handles if you haven't already. Also, if you have any crazy cooking ideas you'd like me to try, please leave a comment below. Thank you for grubbing with me, Guber, and I'll see you here next time on Anything But Authentic.